there are these Indian words which don't exist in any Indian language and don't exist in any other form of the English language, like brinjal. Right. So in the Western world, it's eggplant, right? And in India, there is no Indian language where it's called brinjal. It's called bengan, it's called vaidarinya in Malayalam, begun in Bangla. Yeah. But you can't have anyone saying brinjal except in Indian English.
You've introduced India to many words like rhodomontade and farrago and hippopotamonstrous sesquipedaliophobia. So I'd like you to introduce us to one more of your favorite words.
Well, you know, when a kid asked me that at a gathering in a school in Trivandrum, I told him the word that I would introduce him to was to read. And he'd come across his own words, and I wouldn't have to spoon feed him a word. But there are lots of interesting words. As you know, yesterday I reminded the nation of a word called snollygoster, which is an 1845 American concoction, meaning a shrewd and unprincipled politician. I had produced it when one particular chief minister jumped ship and went and joined the party he'd campaigned against. And when something similar seemed to be happening overnight on the weekend, I dusted this out and said, latest usage today. So that's one word which I think at least a lot of people now seem to be familiar with in India. Another word that I've been fond of in the sense that I feel it could be used more often, especially in our politics, is defenestrate. Defenestrate means literally to throw out of the window. But it's meant to be used to simply mean to reject, to discard, to expel, all of those things. And I love that word. I've been using it since my college days, and I'm surprised that it's not more widely used. So defenestrate. Defenestrate the political opportunists from our politics, for example, would be a good thing to do.
Are there any other English words that you've invented or would like to coin?
No, I coined one or two in the Great Indian Novel. Too embarrassing to mention in public. But they never caught on, so we can.
But please tell us.
No, I can't. Not on TV.
Oh, okay.
This is going to remain on the net as a permanent indictment.
Oh, so it's
and I coined a slightly naughty word in the Great Indian Novel, which I'll whisper to you, and you can go and look it up later.
Okay.
But you won't catch me saying it.
Okay. All right.
But then I also coined a term which I wanted to see getting more popular, which is not really a new word particularly, but as Minister of State for External Affairs, I suggested in a couple of speeches that India was moving on beyond non-alignment to multi-alignment. When I said it, it kind of fell with a thud, and no one took it seriously, and no one quoted it and got no attention. Now it's come back into vogue, and I was complimenting my friend, the Foreign Minister, Jaishankar, that in one of his speeches, he used the term multi-alignment. So 10 years after I had tried and failed, it may be coming into circulation.
Right. That's fantastic. That's an exclusive for the English Not.
There you are for the English Not.
Thank you so much. Now, another subject which is close to your heart is about the British looting India. And loot is one of the words that you have written and spoken about in the past. Could you talk to us about some of the other words that the British have looted from India?
Oh God, there are so many. I mean, there must be, without exaggeration, close to 1,000 words in the complete the big fat Oxford English Dictionary that have come from Indian languages. But some I wouldn't really count as English words because they're very obviously unchanged Indian words that they put in. Some, however, though very much current in English usage, and many English people don't realize have come from India, to the Indian ear are very obviously Indian, like jungle, bungalow, things that guru, yoga. I mean, many people, oddly enough, in the Western world don't realize that these words have come from Indian languages. But then there are the really surprising ones, words that don't actually look or sound Indian the way the British pronounce them, which are actually derived from, and then of course mispronounced, Indian words. So one that I particularly was struck by when I discovered it about 10, 15 years ago was shampoo. Because shampoo came from the British saying champo, when they got their servants to wash their hair. So press and knead and rub your hair is champo. Everything was an imperative. And then I'm going for a champo became I'm going for a shampoo. And that's how shampoo came into being.
I believe a Bengali by the name of Sheikh Din Muhammad took it
and he actually set up an entire series of salons or spas where he offered the shampoo, exactly.
Right.
That Sheikh Din Muhammad from Bihar, actually, but Bihar was part of the Bengal presidency. That's
you
what
like
happened.
To take credit for everything.
You should. The other one was cash, which comes from Tamil. I mean, I had no idea that cash came from. I mean, I could guess that mulligatawny soup was actually mulligatawny, which simply means hot pepper water. And that's in Tamil. But that cash had come from a Tamil word was a discovery to me. So things like that, I think there are quite a few. Even Wikipedia has over 100 from various Indian languages. And if you go into a more serious sort of philolinguistic study, I'm sure you'll get several hundred.
Right. Catamaran is another one.
That's again from Tamil katta maram. In fact, katta is literally to cut, and maram is wood.
Right.
So that's what a catamaran is from.
Yes.
And then, of course, if you want to look at kamarband, a very elegant English gentleman wearing something around his waist, it's actually kamarband, you see. Just as, by the way, this may surprise you, when you see pictures of these Mexican revolutionaries like Zapata with bandanas around their head, it comes from bandhana. Exactly.
Yeah. And
Bandhana.
bangles comes from Bangli in
Yes.
Yeah.
Bangles, I think you could guess, no?
Yeah.
Jungle, bangle,
But,
etc.
okay, do you know the word for a type of clothing which is inspired by the neighborhood of Bombay called Dongri?
No, I didn't know that. There is a neighborhood called Dongri. And that's the dungaree, I
The
suppose. yeah?
dungarees are from Dongri.
So there is an expression that is no longer really current in English for a big commotion, confusion racket called a dulali.
The Dulali.
And that comes from Devlali.
I believe
Not to mention the Jalpa, which is the Jodhpur, of course.
Yeah. Right. And indigo, the word indigo too comes from the Greek word for India or Indian. You've also written about Indianisms like native place. So what are some of your other favorites?
Well, there's so many. Some
Yeah.
of them they just slip into conversation quite routinely. My favorite for the longest time was prepone because I thought I'd invented it. But air dash is another Indianism. Then the newspaper reports about police tracking down criminals always refer to history sheeters. That is a criminal with a long record of crimes. It's called a history sheeter. Where that comes from is all Indian English. Then there's, of course, the expressions, of which the most famous one is please adjust. Kindly adjust, actually. Not please adjust, kindly adjust. That is when a fifth person sits on a bench meant for two and says, kindly adjust. Then there's also the classic, we are like this only. So you can come up with a few of those.
So after the US, India has the second highest number of English speakers. And with our birth rate, I think we're soon going to have the highest number of English speakers.
Yeah, but the US has an immigration rate. So they've already reached, I think, over 300 million.
Okay.
Whereas our census severely undercounts us.
Yeah.
So we may find it difficult to have bragging rights over the actual numbers.
Right.
Because, for example, in the Indian census, I'm not considered an English speaker. Since the census only asked me what's my mother tongue, which is Malayalam, so I'm not listed. They didn't, at least the year that I did the census, there was no supplementary question saying what other languages do you know.
So they've underestimated the number.
Seriously underestimated. In fact, I think the official census claim is 2% speak English.
Right.
Which is a massive undercount.
Correct.
So I would say the reality is somewhere between 10 and 20%, with varying degrees of competence and fluency of the Indian population. Now, if you take that number, then you're looking at about 260 million, which is still lower than America.
So, but I think that with our birth rate, we are going to, exceed.
All right, good for you and your faith in our birth rate.
So anyway, because that brings me to the next question, which I want to ask you. With the growing number of English speakers in India and with our growing influence in the world, do you think that passengers on the London Underground wearing cashmere sweaters will ask other passengers to kindly adjust? Will New Yorkers ask their meetings to be preponed? And will tanned Torontonians describe their complexion as wheatish?
Wheatish, that's a good one.
Do you think that these words will find their way into the rest of the world?
No, actually, no. I'll tell you what. One of the strengths as well of English is the fact that there are so many regional variants. That, there's a very distinctive Australian English, which even New Zealanders can tell apart from a New Zealander's English, though we probably can't. And there are real distinctions between the English spoken around London and the English spoken around Yorkshire, let alone Scotland or Ireland. And all these variations have what makes it distinctive, and therefore Indian English has every right to be as distinctive as Irish English or American English. And it's curious, for example, that in India, at least for the longest time, I've not heard it much since returning to India, but when I left India, people still spoke in furlongs. How far are you away? Oh, it's just a couple of furlongs down the road. But no one in England has used furlong for 100 years. So we had a word in English.
Yeah.
Then there are these Indian words which don't exist in any Indian language and don't exist in any other form of the English language, like brinjal.
Right.
So in the Western world, it's eggplant, right? And in India, there is no Indian language where it's called brinjal. It's called bengan, it's called vaidaringya in Malayalam, begun in Bangla.
Yeah.
But you can't have anyone saying brinjal except in Indian English. So
Right.
where did it come from? I haven't looked it up. But the fact is, it's an Indian English word that only exists in Indian English.